What's up, guys? Welcome to Podcast 412, Fight for Purity. A bold way of looking at challenges that young people are facing. We'll talk about the naked truth of life and how to handle the problems you're thinking but not talking about. So strap in, get ready for another great podcast.
Okay, you guys, welcome back. So we're going to be starting or kicking it off on episode 4 and kind of just a real quick review. Previously, we talked about ratings. And so just remember, like I said, you got to remember all the ratings we talked about. So, but we're just going to move forward with that. And then one of the last things that I kind of wanted to read was, we were talking about the ratings, and one of the things that I said, it's not like when we started our last episode, well, it's not the standard that we hold, but it's something that people are familiar with. So we wanted to use that kind of as we move forward, so that way, if we say,
It's like a reference point.
yeah, it's a reference point for you guys to kind of see where we're at, and then hopefully we'll just get deeper. But I did want to read something real quick about the system, the rating system. One of the things that it says that to ensure that our rating system reflects the current sentiments of parents, CARA system is constantly evolving as American parent sensitivities change, or so does the rating system. Elements in the rating system are continually reevaluated through surveys and focus groups that mirror contemporary concern and to better assist in making the right family viewing choices. And the only reason I wanted to say that is, society is always changing, and people say evolving or whatever. And so if these guys understand that they have to constantly reevaluate, and sometimes you have to reevaluate yourself because you don't know if your standards have moved, because that happens sometimes. You can have a standard like this, or and it can fluctuate just depending on where you're at in your life, depending on what's going on in your life, whether it could be because of a relationship with your parents, or something that you're going through, or you're having a difficult time. Sometimes you have to reevaluate, and these people understand that and I don't know if that's a good thing or that's a bad thing. I don't know how parents, sensitivities change to what's going around them. Maybe their standards are higher, or I don't know if they get lower. I don't know how. I haven't really looked into how the ratings have changed. Like if they've gotten more lenient, more slack, or if it's a little stricter now, or there's just so just wanted to kind of keep that in mind as we're moving forward, because maybe is that whole boundary thing again. Where's your boundaries at, like moving forward. So. But yeah, so welcome back. We're going to talk about boys and girls. We're going to talk about men and women and kind of the conduct between them. And so we're going to start off with a fun fact, though.
So today we're learning that women have a larger hippocampus.
It's part of your brain.
It's where we store our memories. So this is why women or girls usually recall every single word of an argument that's been said maybe 5 years ago, and women feel while men use logic. And men take a more fact-based approach to their environment, often scanning for threats and challenges, and women tend to take a more intuitive approach because they perceive people and events more deeply with a greater memory capacity. So like we solve problems and stuff differently because we see things differently.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
We get the vibes off a room and we're like,
Makes sense. Or a person or whatever.
Or a person, yeah. And the guys are like, I know you, so.
Yeah.
Or I don't know you, so.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, what was it?
Threats.
Yeah, I was going to say, depending on who you are, but like if you're a criminal, you're looking at, how can I break into this? Like how can I get in, So yeah. I know somebody that does that all the time. So
Yeah, because it says men tend to converge their thinking, so they define and clarify a problem, and they eliminate and isolate issues. So that makes sense.
Yeah. Because I know, he goes into a room and thinks, wow, be easy to break in here. There's this, there's that. You're thinking, about how you can, do something. But yeah. So, fun fact for today.
And on that note of males versus females, kind of what we're going to be talking about today is like the idea of a gentleman versus a lady, and like the standards for that for today versus what they used to be, and like how that all connects to conduct, because we've said it like a couple of times, conduct is your behavior, it's your standards for your own personal behavior, and these are kind of the standards for what would make a gentleman or a lady, a classy lady, you know, what makes like a good woman or a good man. And I just thought it was an interesting way to kind of kick things off, because obviously there's different standards for guys and girls in all stages of life. You know, there's always going to be different standards, but you know, the ultimate goal is to be the, what is it, like the ultimate guy or the ultimate woman, you know, that boss lady, or or you know, that guy that everybody else wants to be. And I thought gentleman was a decent way. And I remember my dad saying there was an old list, I could not find it for the life of me, of what used to make a gentleman. There were like requirements. If you were going to be a gentleman, there were certain things that you had to be able to do or you had to have. And I remember a couple of them were you had to know like more than one language. I think it was more than two, actually. It was, you had to know more than two languages, which is more than I know already. You know, you had to be able to know cartography, which is like map making. So you had to like be able to look at a land and be like, this is the mountains, these are this is that. You had to know, I think, how to sword fight. You had to know how to ride a horse. You had to know like archery. Like there were like all of these like lists of like what a gentleman should be back in the day. And I'm like, now like looking at, you know, our guys today, not like throwing like, you know, not be like, you know, but it's obviously changed.
Those are not the standards today.
You know, I don't meet people expecting them, you need to know how to ride a horse.
Back then, they could protect you and go into survival mode and help you.
Yeah, like it was
good to know.
Like it was a different time, so the standards were different. But like I liked personally like that the old lists was about, like you said, like protecting. It was a very like physical element, but not just that, but that you had to be able to like do stuff. Like you couldn't like just sit home all day, you know. And then like things like cartography and languages that requires using your brain, so you had to be able to learn stuff. So you couldn't just be, you know. And then that like kind of falls like for girls too, you know. There's standards for girls too. We can't just sit there and do nothing either with our lives, you know. But I was looking at one of the lists. It's for a modern gentleman today. So I looked at it because I wanted to see the difference, you know. And one of the things that I thought was interesting, the gentleman needs to know how to dance. Well, I was like, huh. I was like, dancing. And then it helps anyone with their baggage. They always RSVP. They know the difference between confidence and arrogance. They're open-minded. They're constantly proving that chivalry is not dead. I do like that one. He makes sure he doesn't try to make anyone cry. He never lies. He doesn't always make the first move. He means what he says, and he says what he means. He always offers his seats and opens the door. He doesn't judge. He's well presented. He has a firm handshake and always makes eye contact. Offers a coat to a lady and knows how to cook. Always walks a woman home. You know, doesn't insist on paying the bills. And I thought, I was like, what a difference. You know, the old versus the new, because there's not as much like there's not as much physical requirements necessarily. Like there's not, I don't want to say talent, but maybe I do want to say talent. I don't know. Skills. Yeah. Skills is the right word. Skills, there's not as much skill required in this list anyways.
Yeah. And it's probably one of many lists, but
yeah.
But yeah. Like the whole, what was it? The not to be, what was it? Confident but not
arrogant.
Yeah. And it's like, why, I wonder, like in our,
that needs to be said.
Like in our generation, you know. Yeah. Because
apparently a lot of guys are arrogant, I guess.
Yeah, like prideful, you know. So it's the things that, like you said, that they have to think about now have nothing to do with, because I think back then you kind of had to know those things because just in the society that we lived in, I mean, you probably had to protect, your actual property, your land, you know, your family. And so it's probably important to know like all those things, because otherwise
You'll die.
Yeah. Yeah. You'll die, your family will die, your children
Even
will
the
die.
communication, like if you're traveling,
Yeah.
you know, you should know kind of the languages around. So
Yeah,
I'm sure they
or
were
you
all
might
the
get
same.
lost somewhere
Yeah.
because they didn't have like GPS. You know, like certain things, like you said, because of society, you know, and like nowadays, I mean, when do you think? I wonder, like, you know, like really, I know that's like, but when do you, like everything? I was listening to somebody today talking about like so much is
Online and-
online, like everything, like you said, autocorrect. Like I know my son says that he'll just type because he knows it's gonna fix it for you, so he doesn't have to think so much about whether he's writing it or not. But yet you don't learn, and your GPS. I know my kids, they don't if they don't have a GPS, you know, they get lost, and I'm like,
I'm absolutely guilty of that.
yeah. So you know you can't go anywhere because if you don't have your, you know, like can you imagine if it all just like
Stayed the same.
just no, if it all disappeared. Like we had one of those EMPs, you know, and all our tablets and our computers, and if you couldn't use your microwave, you couldn't use your, you know, your crock pot, you could, even for us, you know, what would we do with all that? You'd have to boil water, you know.
Over old school fire.
Yeah, and you'd have to
How to make a
know
fire.
how to make a fire,
Yeah.
right? You know, have to know how to do all that stuff. And even, I don't know, I think culturally it's different too, because some of those stuff you still have to do like in other countries.
Yeah.
So like even, I don't know if it was, I don't know what it was that I had seen, but it was like this post pretty much like, with who you're with now, would you survive if like everything were to go out, you know, like, you know, these guys, like they have their shoes or they have whatever, you know? So I'm like, well, Sam can work on cars and he can do electrical or whatever, you know,
Yeah.
different stuff, you know? Can these men, like if something were to happen, because I think we live in luxury now. So like everything's just handed to you, you know? I think that's where it's like, we're kind of spoiled.
Yeah,
So-
very. I think especially as Americans, everybody's entitled. Like you're so, you know what, you know, and it's like, dude, you have to work for stuff. That's like my generation. It's like nobody's gonna hand you anything, and you didn't, like I didn't grow up with the mentality that I deserved something or that I deserved to be treated a certain way. You know, I didn't grow up like that. But people today, you should treat me this way, or you should give me this, or you should. I'm like, why?
Yeah, and I think if we were making our own list of like, you know, a gentleman or even just like a lady, like that would be one of the things that we would have to include, because that's our like you said, your conduct. Like you need to know that you have to work for stuff. Like you have to work for what is that saying people say, like you don't work you don't eat, you know. You know, and it's the same kind of like for girls and guys, you know. I know like as a, I guess, more traditional woman, it's a little bit more not physical, like literal with guys, that we expect guys to work so that we can eat, you know, like physically, you know. And for women it's a little bit more, I guess, morally and like character wise, I guess, I don't know, but yeah, like I think just the difference between guys then and guys now is weird. And like how you're talking about like arrogance versus confidence, I think it's part of that. It's that spoiledness, that luxury for everybody.
Yeah, because I think nowadays it's like how much do you make is kind of like
Is the standard.
is the
the
standard.
standard.
Or what kind of car do you drive? It, you know, and then some people, like I said, they don't even have standards, you know, especially like girls nowadays. It's like there's no standards, just how do you look. I was like, well, it's not going to do a whole lot for you later, you know.
On in life.
Yeah. You know, so you really have to search. So like, yeah. Anybody else want to add to
Our list.
our list of gentlemen? I don't know, you went through it really fast, so I couldn't catch.
I know, I was trying to find some from
I couldn't catch.
more of the past,
Well,
but
we'll look at the one that Lisa got one. We'll do the girls or the guys. I know she had one.
We can do the guys first, I think.
The guys first?
Yeah, we'll do the guy first.
We'll do the guys first. Yeah, and she found a different list, so yeah.
Yeah. All right. So what I found, the standard, I guess, for conduct anyways, for good men, is he puts the needs and desires of their families and close friends before his own. He treats his possessions, professional position and the environment he's in as if he will eventually hand him over to somebody else. He doesn't feel entitled to anything. He's faithful, dependable, kind, has a moral integrity, and then is, I guess, like fatherly. He wants to be like a dad or is a father figure to somebody because he wants to be a good example. But yeah, that's what
That's some.
And I like that list. I was like,
because it has to do more with like your character versus your outward stuff.
versus carrying people's baggage according to my list.
And
You know?
RSVPing, like a jerk, any jerk can do that, you know.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't take much.
And I guess that kind of focuses more on the not
On
that
the outward.
Not that it's not important.
Yeah.
You know, hopefully he values your time and
But what
he
I'm
respects it. But
yeah, but if your inward is right, then all that's gonna just come automatically.
Yeah.
Because
Because if you're going to be a father figure, you're not going to go just like a slob. You know, you're not going to be a jerk to a bunch of people because you're trying to be a father figure. Or like you said, where you're treating it like you're passing it to somebody else. You know, it's like that whole family heirloom thing. You're not going to treat something like trash and then be like, here,
yeah,
that's yours now.
yeah. And I kind of think like what you guys said earlier is that we live in that society where everything's very me oriented. Everything's about me. It's like that's too much work. That's too hard to do that. That's that's just the culture I guess that we live in. It's just people don't know anything about going like the extra.
yeah, I
the
guess
extra
we
mile.
don't want to make the sacrifice, but we expect others to make a sacrifice for us.
Well, even like when like some people like they're just like, well, what am I gonna get out of it? Like instead of just helping people, it's like, okay, well, what am I gonna get in return?
Yeah, like me. Yeah,
Like,
me.
Yeah.
So growing up, I didn't really see that, like, you know, a gentleman. I think the first time I really kind of saw that was when I started going to church, and also with my father-in-law, because he's real selfless. You know, like he helps people, and from what I hear from my husband is that even when his friends, they didn't really have father figures growing up, and he would teach them how to work on cars or just do whatever and be there, you know. And even, you know, like when I would take my dog out to the bathroom, one time he thought me and Sam were fighting, and he like stopped his truck because he was going to work, and I was just taking my dog out to the bathroom, and he was like, is everything okay? You know, for me that's kind of weird, you know, because it was, when I was growing up, it was always me looking out for everyone, and I saw a bunch of jerks in my life, you know, like my dad and all these different men my mom had around me. So I think that was the first time. And then just guys in church that learn how to grow up that way. I mean, I think it's kind of something you're taught, you know, so I think not that it's not attainable or achievable, it's just a choice. I think you have to make a choice that, you know, I'm not going to be a jerk.
Yeah, well, I mean, like that whole list, like being kind and being considerate. We said it one of our times when we're talking about respect. You have to be taught that. It doesn't come naturally to be nice to other people.
No.
To think about other people before yourself.
No, because like when you look at kids, like they're not.
That is my toy, you know. I'm hungry. I'm tired.
And that's very true, because same thing for me. I didn't grow up with there's no reference for that. All the men that I saw were like lazy, and they didn't work, and they didn't work. I think that was a big thing for me, is they didn't work. They would just come to my mom, or my mom's boyfriend, and they wouldn't do anything. They just watch TV all day. Like that's the kind of like I guess the picture that I have, that I grew up around. Same thing, you know. You don't see that. You just see they're very self-centered, I guess, guys.
Yeah, and the only one that I had seen that wanted to, that did work and would take care of us was because he wanted control. Because if, like, my mom wasn't working, she couldn't leave the situation. So it wasn't like he was being chivalrous, you know. And it was kind of like a fake chivalry, you know. He would, like, buy us all kinds of stuff, but to buy us. So it wasn't real,
To win you over kind of thing.
It
So,
wasn't because he actually genuinely loved you guys.
so there's some people out there that use it as deceit. So you
Yeah.
kind of have to know,
Yeah.
you know.
It's like those, what do you call them? I don't know what you call them. When like in an abusive relationship, they do like all that other gentleman stuff.
It's outward.
They do all the outward. They do this. They're kind. They talk to you and they say all the right things, but there's no character. And then you get into a relationship that's abusive because he's doing all the outward things, but yet it's not inside. And I think that's kind of a hard. Is in order for you to kind of see that gentleman in that list, you have to be able to see that. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you have to be able to see somebody live that out. You can't just know that, you know, going to the mall and getting somebody's number.
That
You know?
he's gonna be a gentleman. Yeah. That he's got the conduct of a good man.
Yeah, you know, you have to see that like in action, because that's actually something that's visible.
And you kind of see that when there's times of conflict. So how they handle like correction, how they handle, you know, pushback and stuff, that's when you see what's inside.
Yep.
As opposed to just the outer, because you can go and do stuff, you know, for people on the outside, but then, you know, when push comes to shove, be like a real jerk.
Yeah, yeah. How does he respond, like you said, in difficult situations?
Yeah, and like I think in order to be able to see like the conduct of a good man like that, you would have to have a kind of good conduct in your relationships. You know, you can't just jump in. You have to have standards for your behavior when you're in your relationships. You know, we talked about it. I think the first season where we talked about how you can't just jump into a romantic relationship from the get-go because you don't know that person. And then, like you said, you're going to get stuck in this not good relationship because you didn't have your proper boundaries and you didn't have your conduct listed up. And I think that's like something we have to talk about too, is just like you got to have good conduct in your relationship. So you got to realize, okay, this isn't okay for our relationship. We're just friends right now. You know, nothing more than that. You know, just in order to be able to see, like you said, when arguments and conflict arise.
And that's such a hard thing for people, just to be friends. Like today, it's like, do you not know how to be like a friend? That's how you get to know people. You get to know people by just being around them in a regular situation where they're not trying to impress you or they're not trying to. You get a chance to see somebody, you know. I think they say, I don't know how true this is, but what is it, like 6 months? You can hide who you are kind of for 6 months.
Well, that's how long they say the honeymoon period is. Like when you get married, there's a honeymoon period of 6 months where everything's wonderful. And then and then the real problems begin.
Then the true self comes out. But you do get to know people. But people have such a hard time just being a friend. Just be a friend, or just get to know people, and you know, and even friends, like female friends.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, you gotta, because like we'll get into it too. Like being a good woman, you should have, you know, surround yourself with people who are good women. You know, if you're a girl, you know, people that you can look up to and be like, I want to be like that, versus, you know, looking up to people and be like, I don't want to be like that.
Yeah, and even what I guess what a guy would be attracted to as well, you know, for an ongoing relationship. Yeah. I mean, obviously he's attracted in the immediate, but it's not because he wants to have a long-term relationship. It's just, you know, for now.
Yeah.
Well, I saw this thing, like this girl, she was like noticing, because she's like into fitness. She's like full of like tattoos, and like she's like more masculine, but not masculine. You can tell she's a girl. And she's like, I've noticed that every guy that I've seen, their wives are more, she like described it as being like more dainty, more like, I guess, feminine in it. And like that's what they're really, she's like, they're not looking for me, they're like she was all sad, but I was like, I mean, you know, they don't want someone who can
Beat him up.
yeah
Lift them.
they don't want to be lifted.
Yeah. And we'll pause there really quick, and then we'll come back and continue our discussion on women.
Thanks for listening. Join us for our next podcast. You can contact us through Instagram at podcast412 or email us at 412fight@gmail.com. See you next time.